Wesley Snipes. In the 1990s, Wesley Snipes was one of the biggest black stars in Hollywood. He had the looks, the charisma, and the talent to do both action and drama, which made him stand out in an industry that often boxed black actors into one lane. Movies like New Jack City, White Men Can't Jump, and Demolition Man showed just how versatile he was. Then came Blade in 1998, where he played a vampire-slaying superhero years before Marvel built its billion-dollar empire. That role immediately turned him into a global action star and made fans believe he was about to dominate Hollywood for decades. At that point, Snipes had everything lined up to be a legend. He had the franchises, fans loved him, and he had the star power to compete with the likes of Will Smith and Denzel Washington. But instead of building on that momentum, his career started going downhill in the 2000s. And it was because of one word: IRS. It turned out that Snipes hadn't filed returns for several years and owed millions in back taxes. The case got ugly, with Snipes claiming he was misled by shady advisors who told him he didn't legally have to pay. The government didn't buy that, and by 2008, he was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. For a superstar at the height of his career, that punishment was devastating. He went from red carpets and blockbuster films to a prison cell, and as you'd expect, Hollywood quickly moved on without him. While Will Smith was dominating box offices with movies like I Am Legend and Denzel was winning Oscars, Snipes had disappeared from the industry. When he finally got out in 2013, things were never the same. He tried to make a comeback with smaller films and even joined the cast of The Expendables 3, but the momentum was already gone. The Blade franchise had already been shelved, and Marvel eventually planned to reboot it without him. Fans still argue that if not for his legal troubles, he could have built a career as long-lasting as Denzel or Samuel L. Jackson. Terrence Howard. In the early 2000s, Terrence Howard looked like he was on his way to being one of Hollywood's most respected leading men. He had an epic breakout year in 2005, starring in Hustle and Flow, where he played a Memphis pimp chasing a rap dream. This was the same role that earned him an Academy Award nomination. That same year, he was in Crash, which went on to win Best Picture. Casting directors loved him because he could play complicated characters with both charm and edge. Studios saw him as the kind of actor who could anchor serious dramas, but also step into blockbuster territory. In 2008, he was standing shoulder to shoulder with Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man, playing Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes in a role that Marvel fans knew would eventually turn into War Machine, a full-blown superhero. Terrence basically had every reason to become part of the billion-dollar Marvel series, but then came the problem. After the first Iron Man was a massive success, Marvel started negotiating contracts for the sequel. Reports say Howard had been the highest-paid actor in the first film, even more than Robert Downey Jr., because Downey was still rebuilding his career at the time. When Iron Man 2 came around, Marvel slashed Howard's salary, offering him only a fraction of what he initially expected. Terrence felt betrayed and even said he had helped get Downey cast in the first place and deserved better. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, stories spread that he was difficult to work with and argued with producers. In the end, Marvel didn't budge, and Howard was replaced by Don Cheadle, who went on to play War Machine in every Marvel movie since. Losing that role was more than just a missed paycheck. It literally cut Terrence out of the most successful film franchise in history, one that could have secured his place as a household name for decades. After Marvel, his career never fully recovered to what it could have been. Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown started out as one of Disney's brightest young stars in the late 1990s and early 2000s. He had roles in shows like Family Matters and movies like Major Payne. But he really became a household name when he played Eddie Thomas, Raven's best friend, on That's So Raven. Everyone knew the show was a massive hit, one of Disney Channel's biggest, and Orlando stood out for his impressive comedy. At that time, he was on the path to being the next big crossover star, and someone who could move from child actor into adult roles, just like other Disney stars who went on to dominate music and Hollywood. He even had a music career starting up, recording songs and guest rapping on different projects. By the time he was in his late teens, everything looked set up for him to keep growing into a long-lasting star. But as the show ended and his career moved into the late 2000s, Orlando started making headlines for the absolutely wrong reasons. Instead of taking strong acting roles, he started disappearing from the industry, and reports of drug use and erratic behavior began to surface. He was arrested multiple times over the years for things like drug possession, domestic battery, and resisting arrest. What made it so much worse was how public his struggles started to be. Unlike actors who faded quietly into the background as their reputation started to decline, Orlando had several viral moments where he gave disturbingly bizarre interviews or rants that shocked and disappointed fans. In fact, at one point, he made strange claims about former co-stars and even about huge celebrities like Michael Jackson and Raven-Symoné. Each time one of these interviews spread online, it made it harder for people to take him seriously as an actor or musician again. He had that natural charisma, comic timing, and even musical ability, but his personal issues completely overshadowed all of that. Gary Dourdan. Gary Dourdan became famous in the early 2000s when he played Warwick Brown on CSI Crime Scene Investigation. At the time, CSI was one of the biggest television shows, pulling in tens of millions of viewers each week, not just in the United States, but worldwide. Dourdan's role was so important because he was one of the only black actors in a lead role on a major crime drama, and his character was both smart and charismatic. He was making it big. He won awards for the part, and many people believed he was about to move into bigger projects in Hollywood. With the success of CSI, he had the kind of visibility that could have easily led to blockbuster movie roles and a long-lasting career at the top of the industry. But things quickly started to fall apart once he left CSI in 2008. According to reports, there were issues with his contract, but what really drew everyone's attention were his legal problems. That same year, he was arrested in Palm Springs when police found heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, and prescription pills in his car. Instead of being remembered as the major star of a hit series, he became linked to drug charges. Over the years, more problems followed. He was arrested for domestic violence in 2011 after a fight with his girlfriend, then arrested again for drug possession, and later for driving under the influence. On top of that, his finances completely collapsed. In 2012, court documents revealed that he had filed for bankruptcy, showing that he was deep in debt, even though he had once been paid around $200,000 per episode on CSI. After he stopped being in the spotlight, Dourdan only managed to get smaller roles in independent films or short TV appearances, but none of them made a real impact. Larenz Tate. Larenz Tate first got his big break in the early 1990s with Menace to Society in 1993, where he played the unforgettable role of O-Dog. The movie was so good that Tate became one of the most talked about young black actors in Hollywood. He followed that with strong roles in films like Dead Presidents, 1995, and Love Jones, 1997, which gave him a reputation as someone who could shine in tough street dramas as well as romantic, emotional roles. By the end of the 1990s, Tate was widely expected to move into the same lane as other leading black actors of his time and become a household name in mainstream film, but after his early run, Tate's career growth started to slow down. He landed roles in movies like Why Do Fools Fall in Love and A Man Apart, but they didn't perform well enough to push him into the A-list. While actors like Will Smith, Jamie Foxx, and Denzel Washington were getting major studio films, Tate struggled to break through to that next level. Even though he was respected for his talent, Hollywood seemed to constantly box him in, always offering him similar roles that didn't give him the chance to show range. In the early 2000s, his appearances became less frequent, with projects like Crash in 2004 giving him some recognition, but not enough to get back the star power he had in the 90s. He began to have more visibility later, with roles in shows like Rescue Me, House of Lies, and Power, but these came long after people thought he would already be a superstar. Industry insiders have often pointed to timing as one of the reasons his career didn't go so far, as Hollywood wasn't investing in different black male leads during the late 90s and early 2000s. Even though he has been consistently praised for his performances, Tate didn't get the kind of big opportunities that could have kept him as one of the biggest names in Hollywood. Cuba Gooding Jr. In the mid-1990s, Cuba Gooding Jr. was one of the hottest names in Hollywood. He had already made a mark in the negative 991 movie Boys and the Hood, playing Tress Styles in a film that became a cultural landmark. But his major breakout came in 1996 with Jerry Maguire, where he played Rod Tidwell, the charismatic football player opposite Tom Cruise. That role gave him one of the most famous lines in movie history that you've probably hated countless times: "Show me the money." It also got him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Winning that Oscar should have solidified his place as one of the most bankable and respected black actors of his generation. He was young, talented, and at the top of his game. Many people even expected him to follow up with carefully chosen roles that would really showcase his talent and take him into legendary territory. But instead of building on that growth, Cuba started picking projects that people didn't take seriously. He went from Oscar-level films to comedies like Snow Dogs and Boat Trip, and even direct-to-video releases that damaged his reputation. It got so bad that people in Hollywood began saying he had wasted his Oscar win, using it for quick paychecks rather than long-term career moves. At the same time, the quality of the roles being offered seemed to keep getting worse, partly because the industry often typecasts black actors after their breakout, but the choices he made didn't help. Then came the scandals. In 2019, Cuba Gooding Jr. was accused of groping multiple women in New York City, leading to over 20 women coming forward with similar allegations. He was eventually convicted of forcible touching in 2022, which completely overshadowed any chance of a career comeback. After this unforgettable hitch in his career, he did have moments of redemption, like his strong performance as O.J. Simpson in The People vs. O.J. Simpson: American Crime Story in 2016, which showed flashes of the talent that once made him an Oscar winner. But by then, his personal controversies had ruined his legacy. Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker became a star almost overnight in the mid-1990s. He first made it big as a stand-up comic with a fast, high-pitched voice and wild energy that instantly made him stand out from other comedians. His next big break came in 1995 when he starred as Smokey in Friday alongside Ice Cube. That single role made Tucker one of the most promising comedic actors in Hollywood, and by the late 1990s, he was being cast in major films. He appeared in Money Talks with Charlie Sheen in 1997 and The Fifth Element the same year, where his outrageous role as Ruby Rhod proved he could steal the spotlight even in a big-budget sci-fi movie. Tucker really looked unstoppable, and then came the role that would make him a household name worldwide: Rush Hour. When Rush Hour dropped in 1998, pairing Tucker with Jackie Chan, it turned into a global hit. The movie made over $240 million, and suddenly Tucker was one of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. Rush Hour 2 in 2001 and Rush Hour 3 in 2007 took him even higher, with Tucker signing a record-breaking $25 million contract for the third film, making him the highest-paid actor in the world at that time. But while he was cashing in, something really strange happened. Outside of Rush Hour, Tucker wasn't taking other roles. After 1997, he stopped appearing in smaller films, and after Rush Hour 2, he completely disappeared from TV screens for 6 years, only for people to find out that behind the scenes, Tucker had become very religious in the early 2000s. Because of his faith, he refused to reprise his Smokey role in later Friday sequels, saying he didn't want to promote weed culture anymore. He also turned down roles that didn't align with his new values, which really limited his options in Hollywood. At the same time, he was facing serious money problems. Even though he was the highest-paid actor during Rush Hour 3, by 2011, the IRS filed liens against him for millions in unpaid taxes. Reports said he had mismanaged his finances, owed around $14 million in back taxes, and even faced foreclosure on multiple homes. While he eventually paid much of it back, his reputation had already become mostly known for his financial problems. Mo'Nique. Mo'Nique started as a stand-up comedian, quickly building a reputation for her bold humor with no filter. She wasn't afraid to talk about real issues like race, relationships, and body image in a way that had audiences laughing but also agreeing with her. Her big TV break came in the late 1990s when she landed the role of Nikki Parker on The Parkers, a spin-off of Moshe. The show ran from 1999 to 2004 and made her a household name, especially in black households across America. Mo'Nique stood out because she wasn't the typical slim, picture-perfect Hollywood actress. She embraced her size, her voice, and her energy, and fans absolutely loved her for it. Her acting career reached its high point in 2009 with Precious. In the movie, she played Mary, the abusive mother of the main character, and her performance was so good that even critics praised her as one of the best performances of the decade. She ended up winning the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress because of it. And at that moment, she was at the top of the entertainment world. Winning an Oscar usually opens endless doors in Hollywood, and most actors who achieve it get flooded with scripts and opportunities. But instead of her career going upward, things took a drastic turn. After the Oscars, Mo'Nique publicly criticized Lionsgate, Oprah Winfrey, and director Lee Daniels, accusing them of blackballing her because she refused to do unpaid promotion for Precious. She said she was told she was difficult because she wouldn't travel the world to promote the film without being compensated. The thing is, in Hollywood, reputation is everything, and Mo'Nique's outspokenness quickly made her an outsider. As the years passed, she doubled down on her claims of being blackballed. She shared stories of how offers stopped coming in, and even though she had the talent and the Oscar to back her up, producers and directors didn't want to deal with her. She later got into very public battles with powerful industry names. Her biggest issue was in 2019 when she called for a boycott of Netflix, accusing the company of racial and gender discrimination after they allegedly offered her far less money than comedians like Dave Chappelle and Amy Schumer. While many respected her for speaking her truth, others saw her as burning more bridges in an industry already hesitant to work with her. For years, her name became more associated with Hollywood drama than with new roles. Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett had been acting since childhood, but his career really took off in 2015 when he landed the role of Jamal Lyon on Empire. The show was a massive hit on Fox, getting millions of viewers each week, and Smollett's character became a fan favorite because he was openly gay and undeniably talented. Besides being an actor, he was also a singer and songwriter, releasing music that boosted the show's popularity. By the time Empire hit its peak, Smollett had gone from a lesser-known actor to a household name. He was attending award shows, performing on stage, and even speaking on social issues. For a few years, it looked like he had finally hacked the kind of long-term stardom that many actors spend their entire careers chasing. But everything changed in January 2019. Smollett reported to Chicago police that he had been attacked by two men who shouted racist and homophobic slurs, poured a chemical on him, and tied a noose around his neck. At first, the news attracted people's sympathy and outrage, with celebrities, politicians, and fans rallying behind him. But within weeks, police started to suspect that the attack had been staged. They later said Smollett had paid two brothers he knew from Empire to do it, supposedly because he was unhappy with his salary and wanted more attention. The case became a national scandal, with endless headlines, court hearings, and debates about whether he was guilty or being targeted unfairly. In 2021, Smollett was found guilty of filing a false police report and was sentenced to jail time, probation, and fines. His role on Empire was cut, his career stalled instantly, and the scandal completely overshadowed all of his previous work. Brandon Hammond. Brandon Hammond was one of the most promising young actors of the 1990s. Born in 1984, he started acting in commercials before landing film roles that made him stand out. His breakthrough came in 1994 when he starred as young Michael Jordan in the hit movie Space Jam. That same year, he played the role of young Kane in Menace to Society and appeared in Waiting to Exhale, which gave him major exposure to audiences. By 1997, he had one of his most memorable roles in Soul Food, playing Ahmad, the grandson who tried to keep his family together after his grandmother's death. The movie was a box office hit and is still remembered as a classic in black cinema. Hammond's performance was praised for his maturity and raw emotions at such a young age. He became a very familiar face in the 1990s movies and TV, popping up in shows like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and Hangin' with Mr. Cooper. But by the early 2000s, Hammond's acting career slowed down in a way nobody saw coming. Unlike some other child stars who transitioned into teen roles, Hammond seemed to fade from Hollywood. His last credited film role was in 2002's Blue Hill Avenue, after which he largely disappeared from the screen. Unlike many actors who vanish due to scandals or personal struggles, Hammond's story is more about Hollywood not finding a place for him as he grew older. In later years, he occasionally appeared at nostalgic cast reunions, such as the Soul Food Anniversary, where fans were surprised that such a talented child actor hadn't continued acting. Reports say he focused more on writing and directing behind the scenes instead of chasing acting roles. But in terms of Hollywood visibility, he became one of those stars people remember every once in a while and wonder what happened to them. Which of these black actors do you think could have had a second chance at becoming a legend? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then hit the like button and share it with everyone you know who would love to see it. If you'd like more videos like this, then subscribe to our channel and hit the notification icon so you don't miss our next videos.